Be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. And all we do and say, this stream is brought to you by L.IV.E. products. L.IV.E. Live now. We're alive now. So we're going to talk a little bit about people trying to tell you lies and tell you also that it's the truth. Shout out to Mr. Phenom. So James Gunn fired back at people who were saying that the Superman budget, it needs to be, that the amount of money to break even needs to be $650 million. And Mr. Phenom, he really breaks it down really nice. Shout out to Mr. Phenom, DC fan. Snyder fan too, but DC fan. And it's really cool how he's able to put it together. And then on Facebook, forgot the name of the person, but not on Facebook, sorry. On Twitter, a brother was tracking the progress of Superman compared to Man of Steel and also to Spider-Man in terms of worldwide box office gross. We're talking about Into the Spider-Verse Spider-Man. And he was tracking that. And the following things I want to talk to you guys about. So we're going to get into it. But first, Superman right now currently stands worldwide now, it's official, at 578,843,139 million, right? That's what it stands at right now. So it's like 579 million, pretty much, right? I want to show you guys something because I like to show people things, you know. So currently, Superman is at 579 million. You guys can see that? See that right here? You know, on that fifth weekend where Man of Steel was? Man of Steel was at 619 million. I'll tell you who I got it from. It's really from a Twitter source, Snyder fan. I think it's Unbiased Snyder fan, I think. Unbiased DC fan, I think was the name of the person who did this. I got it. Don't worry. We'll go back in Twitter and show you. But I want to show you the graph and how it's diverging, how Man of Steel is just pulling away from Superman. At first, Superman started off bigger than Man of Steel in terms of overall box office gross. But as the weekends winded down, Man of Steel just kept on pulling away because Superman is losing steam, right? Superman only made 26 million during this weekend, the past weekend. Remember, it had 500, I think it was 553 million it made the previous weekend in overall gross. That was the fourth weekend. The fifth weekend is at 579 million, which means it's slowing down, right? Significantly. Whereas Man of Steel continues to plateau off at a higher place, right? Now, I told you guys I'll be surprised if Superman makes 600 million. You know, it's a possibility, but I'd be surprised if it does. Because if it made 25 million this weekend, even with the best, most optimistic figures, let's say it makes, it only drops by 40%, right? Which I think it dropped by 43% last weekend. Let's say it only drops by 40%. That's very optimistic. That's 60%, right? So 60% of 26 million, that's like 3/5. So if you go 5 into 25 goes 5. 5 threes are 15. You're talking about 15 million. About 15 million, right? Even if it drops from 20, it made 26 million. Now it makes 15 million on top of that. That means it'll be at 594 million? 594 million. Okay? That's if it makes 15 million. We don't know what it's going to make, right? International box office is almost at an end. The international box office over the weekend made 5 million extra, not including Friday. That's internationally. That's all around the world. And domestically, I think it made 5.5 million, close to 6 million domestically. So it's not pulling in much more money. The weekends are where it pulls the majority of the money, not the week. So, I mean, we still gonna be in the 500 millions, apparently, at the end of next week, which will be the 6th week, right? The thing about it is that I need people to understand is this movie is done. It's done with its run. It's gonna make a couple more million and that's it. And even if it does cross 600 million, so what, right? Anyways, the point is, Man of Steel made 619 million at the same time. And this is not adjusted for inflation. That's how bad this is. Do you understand how bad this is? Do you understand how bad this Superman film is performing? Do you know what Man of Steel, what amount Man of Steel in today's dollars would have had to make to break even? Man of Steel would have had to make to break even $840 million. $840 million in our money today to break even. Right? Because basically it would have cost today about 300 million to make. And I believe that the Superman movie, well, actually, I don't have to tell you about my belief. There are articles out there that cover this. So I'm gonna deal with the articles, but I just want to show you a couple of other things. This was the most recent one. In the 4th weekend. So Superman's 40 million ahead of Man of Steel. In the 4th weekend, Man of Steel still kicking Superman's ass. Man of Steel made 587 million. Whereas Superman made 551 million. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made 560 million. And just for the sake of you seeing, well, you can't see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse anymore, so we don't remember about it. Here we are again. Superman makes 503 million in the 3rd weekend. Man of Steel had 520 million. This is not even adjusted for inflation, because inflation tells you how many tickets were bought. This is not even when we're talking about tickets bought, this is not even a thing. Like, Superman has not in any way, shape, or form sold the amount of tickets that Man of Steel. And that's why we use inflation. Inflation shows us this. Man of Steel would have made $920 million at the end of his box office run. Superman's going to make, at best, 600, 610, 640 million at best. At best. We're being super optimistic here. It could end its run at 585 million, like what Angry Joe said. It could end its run at 595 million. The 593 million. Because international market has dried up so much that I'll be surprised. And remember, the studio's pumping money into this Superman in ticket sales. To get ticket sales. They literally pumping money into this Superman. So it's costing them even more money every time they try to make it look like it's doing well. Now they talk about how Superman surpassed Batman v Superman in domestic totals. Didn't outsell Batman v Superman in domestic totals. Didn't outsell Batman v Superman. I can guarantee you that. Telling me that something makes more than something when the ticket prices are double or triple it is being very stupidly superficial. As Aaron Fisher so correctly said, shout out to Aaron Fisher, it's about tickets sold. It's about getting butts in seats. And it's clear, Batman v Superman sold way more tickets. Way more tickets. And Superman. Superman is in the recent films like Superman Returns, Batman of Steel, Batman v Superman, Superman has sold the least amount of tickets. It's still below Superman Returns in terms of ticket sales. So if you don't understand, of course, Superman has performed better than all the other flops, but it's a fucking flop. It is not. There's no other description for it. All the metrics show you it's a flop. Do you know what Superman has to actually make to break even? It's closer to $700 million. Sorry, my bad. It's closer to $800 million than $700 million. This movie cost them a lot of money. We'll go into it. And I talked about this before, but, you know, Mr. Phenom, he also covered this shit, which is why, you know, I'm so happy to talk about it. But the article that he covered, I'm going to go into the article that he covered. This is the article right here. It's from Comic Book News. And this was yesterday. The article was done. James Gunn is pushing back on claims about Superman's budget and break-even point. You can also check, by the way, Mr. Phenom, if you want to. All right. James Gunn is pushing back on claims about Superman's budget and break-even point as the film's box office slows. Before we dive in, it could be possible that Gunn on Warner Bros. Discovery's Zaslav may be viewing Superman as their own Batman Begins, meaning a foundation film meant to launch a new DCU, sorry. Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins earned $375 million worldwide in 2005, but sets the stage for The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, each of which went on to gross over $1 billion. The problem with that is, now Mr. Phenom covered some reasons, but I'm going to show you something. I'm gonna crunch some fucking numbers on you, and you're going to see what I'm talking about, right? See, the problem with all of these things that they talk about is you're not considering what was the budget for Batman Begins. What was the advertising? What was the marketing cost? So here's the budget. The budget for Batman Begins was $150 million. Okay? Now we just have to find out what the advertising is. Let's go do that. I said advertising costs. I should have said marketing costs. There it is. The advertising budget for Batman Begins was $100 million. All right? So it's $150 million it cost to make it and $100 million to market it. All right? Okay. So, you know, it's $250 million you got to make. Okay? Let's look at Batman Begins in terms of its international and domestic, right? Domestic was $206,863,479. So basically $207 million. Let's work that out. We'll multiply by 90%. We get $186 million. That's domestic. 186. Try and remember that number. It's 186. Okay, 186. 169 is the international. Remember 186. Multiply by 45%. You get 76.05, about 76, right? So 76 plus 186 gives us $262 million. It earned. And 100 and 150 gives us $250 million, which means it made a profit of $12 million, right? So that's how you work it out. Now, Batman Begins didn't make a whole set of money, but it broke even and it made the company about $12 million. Okay? They're trying to say that Superman is that. The problem with Superman, there are many problems with Superman, but when we're talking about it, is its budget and its its marketing cost. That's the problem with Superman. You know, Batman Begins did not have a huge budget. It was 150 million. I'm sorry, yes, 150 million. And then the advertising budget was only $100 million. So yeah, of course, this movie does okay. There was no reshoots, none of that. They did the movie and that was it. Okay, let's go back to the article. So they say they're trying to do Christopher Nolan Batman Begins, which earned $375 million worldwide in 2005, but set the stage for Dark Knight Rises, each of which went on to gross over $1 billion. Gunn Superman does happen to follow a string of DC failures, which haven't had success since the 2018 Aquaman. Batman Begins came off of a failure of Batman and Robin, so please stop that shit. We don't give a fuck. However, Superman looks to finish with a box office less than Gunn's first Guardians movie at Marvel, which grossed over $773 million back in 2014. Of course, Gunn had the benefit of a strong MCU at the time. Still don't mean shit. What does James Gunn say about the Superman budget? Denies 650 break-even claim. On Threads, a fan asked Gunn about a widely circulated claim that Superman would need $650 million to break even. Gunn replied, absolutely false. Anyone saying that doesn't have an understanding of film business, and we'd be idiots to make a first in franchise film that need to make that much to be profitable. Yeah? Well, there's so many facts that say otherwise. But anyway, here we go. That was him on Twitter. Reported budgets tell a different story. Back in June, the Hollywood Reporter noted that official documents filed with the Ohio government listed Superman's gross budget at $365 million. Gunn dismissed that figure at the time, so he also lied. But a longtime financier told THR the number isn't incorrect. DC has claimed the net budget is closer to $225 million after tax incentives. However, sources also told THR that the marketing could run as high as $200 million, significantly above the typical $150 million for a summer tempo, bringing the combined total into more than $400 million, or the $400 million club. Basically, $425 million would be the cost. But here's the other thing. An earlier report, as previously reported, the Hollywood Inside at Comic-Con also claimed that Superman's budget has surpassed $350 million, largely due to reshoots, aligning with the Ohio filing. Using the industry rule of 2.5 times production cost to turn a profit, that would break even at roughly $875 million, which is well above the $650 million figure Gunn denied. Here's the thing. They're saying something. I had a conservative total of $300 million. I thought the budget for the movie was, right? And $200 million for the advertising, right? And that was my top end, right? I said maybe it's around $150 million for advertising. Let's go there. And let's say it's $300 million. This movie reminds me of The Flash because they keep on covering up stuff. I don't care how many incentives you have. You had reshoots to do. And reshoots cost money. We all know that. All right? You got to throw out 20, 30 million. And if you keep on doing reshoots, every time you do reshoots or whatever you're doing, it costs more money. Gunn denied he was doing reshoots, and he had to turn around and say he did do reshoots. So he's a pathological liar. We can't trust this guy. So anyway, the thing about it is, let's go to the upper end. Let's go to the upper end. Let's say this movie made over Superman's budget because of reshoots. It went all the way back up to $363 million. I mean, $363 million is the budget. Let's say, realistically speaking, $200 million was the amount that they used on advertising. Right? Say they poured out all that money. That's 550 million. That's way higher than anything I put out there. So 550 million. Okay. When we look at Superman currently, you got to take 90% of 331 million. So we're going to do that. That is 298 million. And we're going to take 45% of 248. So 298 million. Bear that in mind. 248 million now by this. That's 112. So 298 plus 112 million gives us 410 million. But we just said this film cost 550 million to make and distribute and advertise and market. So that leaves us with a deficit of 140 million yet to be made. Meaning whatever that amount is that you have, which is, what do we say it is right now? 579? 579, it got to make 719 million to break even. 719 million. See, I just calculated the budget, right? If you going with you going with a budget of 350 million, right? And they said it's over that. So the break even is probably over that. Let's say, because I'm gonna tell you what extra we got to add up. 63 million. That's additional 13 million you got to put on here, right? $732 million over that. This movie need to make to break even. If that is true, what the Hollywood Reporter is reporting. You understand? It's a hell of a lot of money, man. Anyway, I got to go across. I got other things to do. But I just thought I would share this with you guys. I got another one for you from the same Cosmic News. Cosmic Book News said Superman's box office stalls short of $600 million. The Batman did it in 18 days. The latest Superman box office numbers are in and following its fifth weekend have played for 31 days in theaters. James Gunn's Man of Steel reboot is still well short of 600 million. Now, mind you, Man of Steel crossed 600 million this week. So this was the weekend where Man of Steel crossed 600 million. All right. Matt Reeves' The Batman hit it in only 18 days. Man of Steel still wins. As we've many times, Zack Snyder fans have nothing to worry about, as Gunn's Superman won't even hit the Man of Steel 670 million without even counting inflation. Snyder's Man of Steel also brought in more than 402 domestically when factoring in inflation, something Gunn's Superman also won't do. Regardless of the argument to compare using inflation, what can't be argued is that it shows Snyder's Man of Steel was watched by a whole heck of a lot more people than Gunn's Superman. Latest Superman box office numbers. Back to the Superman box office. In weekend number 5, the flick brought in $7.8 billion. The Batman, $11 million. We can get a sense of where Gunn's Superman will finish in its box office after 31 days. The Batman brought in about $20 million. If Gunn's film performs similarly, that would mean Superman will finish with $351 million domestically. However, the bigger story is Gunn's Superman is simply getting crushed internationally. It brought in around $4 million internationally over the weekend, according to the latest updates, which might change. So that's basically it there, grosses of Sunday. Why didn't Gunn piss off? Who didn't Gunn piss off? Maybe if Gunn didn't piss off the rest of the world, they may have shown up. Yeah, that's easy 400 million right there. It cleared 700 million easy. And remember, Man of Steel had cleared 840 million today's dollars. It ended up with 920 million. Maybe if Gunn didn't piss off the rest of the world, they might have shown up. How much did they blow for that worldwide marketing campaign that went nowhere? Maybe they should have shown up at Comic-Con instead. Yep. I know Gunn's pissed off the Asians. They hate the Kaiji scene. They hate Superman leaving the Asian woman by herself on the top of the building. They especially hate what Gunn did to Jor-El by making it look like a family of immigrants is evil. Is that the message Gunn intended to send? They think so. They feel disrespected. Thank you very much, sir. Obviously, Gunn likely pissed off the Eastern Europeans as well as the Middle Easterns, and even Indians, Pakis, by having Lex murder Superman's friend. Who didn't Gunn piss off with this new movie? Maybe only the dog lovers. He also pissed off Superman's fans. Superman's final box office projection. So if Gunn's Superman adds at least another 20 million domestically, that puts the box office at around 600 million. What's left from the foreign market? I just predicted Superman would finish around 630 million worldwide. Will it even hit that? It's now said the flick hits digital in 2 weeks. And once it hits digital, they know that it's a wrap, but it's already a wrap. And y'all know that already. Gunn is also on the defense as he's firing back against claims that the flick needs to hit 650 million to break even. As I went over, for what I'm told, the budget's a lot higher than 225 million. On the bright side, at least Zaslav has something to brag about that they're beating Marvel. Yeah, but Marvel's flopping too. I don't care. What, you want to be the best of all the flops? You know what I mean? Oh, I'm the king of the flops. I'm the king of all the flop movies this year. Shit. Oh my God. So funny. All right, man. Let me see here. Hold on a second. King of the flops. Wow. That's the bragging rights. All right, let me clear out of this. Shout out to Mr. Wesley. Shout out to Mr. Wesley in the building. Shout out to Damian Vincent, of whom I quoted. I step in shit and you want to tell me it's not shit. Mr. Wesley says, Lama, look at all the comments. All you got to do is type in YouTube, James Gunn lies. And wow, I see why his fan base acts like this. What a liar. So a lot of people are talking about James Gunn lying about a lot of things. And he does. This dude lies like nobody's business. Let's check the comment section. No more lies. James Gunn caught lying about Superman budget as Hollywood. There you go. A lot of people are lashing back. No one defends James Gunn. James Gunn lies. The goodwill is over. What a liar. And these are all, you can just check it out on YouTube. G plus G have no excuses, man. They hated Zack Snyder's DC movies and cried to the heavens when Gunn became the head of DC. Now they aren't a fan of his Superman movie, knowing full well they knew what they were getting. Exactly, bro. I see why Snyder's writers act like this. I could answer this guy, but I'm going to leave Mr. Wesley to handle that. Yo, Superman is doing it. It's trash. What do you expect? You expect trash to perform? Come on, man. Y'all just be joking, man. All those channels are right, alt, psycho, Lamo, just like you. No, they're not. I just talked about Mr. Phenom. He ain't no right wing nothing. Okay? There's so many channels right now talking about this stuff. We got DC comic book fans, you know, realizing this is just bullshit. If superhero fatigue or American fatigue really affected the franchise start of Superman, then why invest more into this universe? Wouldn't the next installments also be affected by this? Exactly. Exactly. Or at least the Snyder Cut said domestic comics. They're only focused on the domestic box office, so this is hilarious. And we know why they're focused so heavily on the domestic box office. It's not just that because the internationals underperform, it's because they have control over it. They're buying up tickets. It's not, I'm telling you, there's something unrealistic about how the drops are happening week by week. And I know the studio is literally buying tickets for empty seats. I'm telling you, this movie is not that good. There's so many people want to go see it. It's like Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel made $1 billion, and you're asking, you're scratching your head saying, how on earth did that even happen? There ain't nobody talking positive about that movie, right? It's the studios. So they're spending a whole set of money to get optics, but they're damn broke right after it, which is funny to me. Ultra biased Snyder fan. I think this is the guy that did it. I can't remember, but Superman is down to 700 million domestic weekend and 5 million overseas weekend. By August 26th, it'll be having 5 million global domestic weekends. I think less than that. I think the figures are not going to move much domestically from here on in. You get a couple more million domestically, and I don't think it's going to move that much again. Definitely ain't going to move as much internationally, right? But I think they're falsifying some of these figures. I think they're actually buying up ticket space. The companies actually do, the corporation. That's crazy, but it is what it is, which means they're basically destroying their profits on this movie. So the profits on this movie, there's no profit on this movie so far, but they're destroying it by trying to create a narrative. That's how desperate this company is to try and get Superman to break even. They're not even interested in making profit. They just wanted to break even. That's how desperate they are. And that's sad. Ladies and gentlemen, that is sad. That is a sad day of affairs. Right? So they're going to try their hardest, but this movie's still going to flop. And we know why. I'll say it again. Their budget was too big. And then they went all out on the advertising, and that cost them a whole set of money. Plus, they did reshoots, a whole bunch of reshoots, and that's what hurt them. Even Grace, what are you saying? Grace Roundup is a Snyder fan? She's not a Snyder fan. She was saying since 2024, the movie needed to make more than 600 million. He needed at least past Man of Steel, and they trying so hard to make that happen. If you see this movie starting to make unusual legs, because it's down to its last right now, then you know something's wrong, right? So watch out for that. Hamad says there are a few things if real DC fans accepted and embraced, the DC brand would have been in a better position today. And shout out to Hamad. Generally speaking, not a lot of people care for the Superman character, especially the one version real DC fans claim to be the only one. Yeah, it's kind of boring. The Snyderverse, Man of Steel, and BVS might not have impacted a lot of people. It did. It has, at the same time, impacted more people real DC fans will ever admit. Man of Steel has made new Superman friends some real DC fans should have embraced instead of being cunty gatekeepers. Freak, Superman 2025 did not make new fans, or it didn't have an impact outside the Gunt Twitter sphere. The only thing people rarely talked about is the war scene and whether it was really about Palestine or not. Yeah, and that's just superficial in itself, and it may not be. Gunn may be inferring something else. The people who ran to theaters in the second week when they heard about the war scene didn't become new Superman fans. They didn't invest time learning about 80 years of DC lore. There was a moment for them to say, fuck you, Israel, and that's it, which is the only positive out of it. Snyder didn't hurt the DC and Superman brand. The real DC fans did that all by themselves. You can't be going around calling people who got into DC because of Man of Steel cultists and terrorists for 12 years and expect the DC brand to be strong. Exactly. You're attacking other fans. Instead of trying to come together, unite, and see DC do something, y'all was going at our throats. Superman 2025 was supposed to be the one that will finally fix Superman. It's supposed to be the savior, not only of DC, but of comic book movies and pop culture as a whole. This is what we've been told since BVS. It was not supposed to be another Shazam course correction movie. And the fact that this is now just another new goalpost will never cover up the reality of how much the new Superman movie is a flop. We know it's a flop. A Superman character based on what real DC fans wanted, and will go as far as to make fun of a child's death to make that clear. You cannot debate these fans anymore because they've forced this new reality with new rules on everyone, where money doesn't matter and inflation is misleading. As long as enough critics say, yeah, it's okay, that's enough to deem it as a commercial successful movie. The rules of success they imposed on Snyder films are void now, and seeing them squirm around the new standards of success is hilarious. WB is hemorrhaging money, and this is just another step closer to their demise. May Gunn continue writing super family movies. They're not super family movies, bro. You know, children shouldn't be hearing a superhero call another one a bitch, for example, right? We could go on and on and on about that movie. We're not going to do it, though. The Protein Man says, biggest pill for a lot of people to swallow is that outside of Batman, people don't give a shit about DC in general. Most people, especially outside of America, think Superman is lame as fuck, or they straight up hate him because they perceive him as an American wet dream. I don't agree with you on that, because Superman and Lois was doing extremely well in the TV series. So I do not agree with you on that, Protein Man. What I will say is this. I will say that if you make a shitty ass movie like James Gunn did, people are just not going to go see it. If it's made with care and love, which that movie wasn't, and it doesn't matter how much spin you put on it or whatever, people are not going to go see that. They want something that's worth their time, and people don't have the money like they used to. So they're not just going to go in the cinema and watch any piece of shit and then walk out. No, they're not doing that anymore. Money's hard to come by. So internationally, it's not the tariff war. If something interests a person, they're going to go see it. Superman did not interest them. It's the same generic shit we've been seeing for years. I bet you if Zack Snyder's Justice League goes into theater, I don't need Zack Snyder to make a new movie. None of that. Put BVS back in the theaters. Put Zack Snyder's Justice League back in the theaters. Watch them do numbers. Watch them collectively, both of them together, do better than James Gunn's movie. And watch me. These movies, mind you, in fact, put Man of Steel, then put BVS, and then put Wonder Woman, and then put Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theaters. I know Gal Gadot is an Israeli. I know. She's a Zionist. I don't want to call her a piece of shit yet, but quite frankly, she is a propagandist for genocide. Okay? She hasn't been saying much lately, but still, she needs to pick a side. She needs to be critical of her government. She needs to be critical of what they're doing. She needs to stand up. You're not a fucking victim in this, so fuck off with that shit. That is not victimhood. These people are being murdered and brutalized. Okay? Until Gal Gadot grows some balls and takes a stand and is against her governments or what they're doing, against the idea from what it's doing, fuck Gal Gadot. But anyway, Wonder Woman comes after. As a movie, it's a good movie. And you drop in Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is what Damian Vincent has been saying. I bet you put all those movies into cinemas for a limited release. You don't need to do it, 2-3 weeks or 2 weeks. I bet you put all those movies into theaters, they'll make more money than Superman. I bet you they make $1 billion collectively. Collectively, I bet you they make $1 billion. Because you're letting everybody see the progression. You're releasing them like you can release, for instance, Man of Steel for 2 weeks, BVS for 2 weeks, the Ultimate Edition, of course, Wonder Woman for 2 weeks. We're not touching the films. We're not doing anything extra with the films, right? Zack Snyder's Justice League in the theater for 2 weeks. Bet you it'd make a killing. I bet you people ask you to hold it, put it in the theaters for longer. Right? Zack Snyder's Justice League has not been released in theaters. worldwide or domestically, people will die to see that shit, man. And that is a perfect palate cleanse for this Superman movie. This Superman movie is disgusting. It's a perfect palate cleanse. Rob Liefeld says at 690 million, it would be 200 million greater than any other superhero film this year. Superman has grossed over 578 million worldwide, eyeing a 640 to 690 million finish. This movie don't got them legs, bro. When you seeing this shit from? Internationally, it's not even doing that. You need international help. If the international market was, doing well, yeah, this is not happening. Domestically, what we make? What we make domestically and internationally? It made 26 million. It's not gonna make more than that. It's not gonna make more than 26 million the next weekend. It's not even gonna make. It might make. Optimistically, it can make 16 million. Optimistically, an additional 16 million. It could make much less than that. We'll have to see. Of course, Warner Bros. Will be pumping money into that movie during the week. They're pumping money into this movie, right? They got less cinemas as well. So domestically, it's doing very well. I think they're cheating. I think they're buying up tickets to make it go more. I know they're cheating. They have to be cheating, right? And I think also that that's their strongest thing is the domestic, right? But when you really crunch the figures with inflation, it's miserable what they're doing. It's better than the other DC films that came before it, except for the Batman, which was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But it's not better than any of the DC films that came out. Not even Superman Returns, man. It's not doing better than Superman Returns. So I answered, Rob. We know the studio is Captain Marveling the figures, incurring more cost on itself. But come on. There's something called an international market. This movie has only made 26 million since last weekend. It will make less next weekend. How you see it making 690 million? And I show what it's made compared to Man of Steel right now. You know? When people liked it, nobody replied. Because, come on now. Come on now. No, don't lie. People lie. Numbers don't lie. Superman has become the highest grossing Superman film ever domestically, passing Batman v Superman. And DC Olympus says he's laughing. Batman v Superman Twitter spam bot smear campaign discovered. This is back in 2018. How does that Taylor Swift song go? Haters gonna hate. And the haters have gone so far as to apparently have created a Twitter spam bot smear campaign against Batman v Superman. Yeah, they're trying to say Gunn's movies is doing better than Zack Snyder's movies. They have to find something. Because ultimately, in the end, it's still going to come down to two directors that have made Superman profitable. James Gunn is not one of them. It is Zack Snyder and Richard Donner, both pioneers in what they do. James Gunn gave us generic bullshit. Zack Snyder made us question things. Richard Donner made us question things. And Warner Bros. Would like so much to put James Gunn's name up there with Zack Snyder and Richard Donner as accomplishing and fulfilling Superman. Except the world won't let them. The international figures tell you the world rejects this fucking shitfest of a movie. Nerfing Hulk and Superman will never sit right with me. Yeah, exactly. You know, they dialed down the Hulk into some pansy, and they took Superman and made him a pansy. Then they talk about, oh yeah, this is a great role model for little boys. So when things get hot, I must just break into a tantrum and start quarreling and raising my voice with people and shouting like fucking Star-Lord? For real? Like fucking Peacemaker? I must be mature. Aaron Fisher says, I want to be very clear. Jonathan sacrifices his life for his son in Man of Steel. Superman blatantly lets a man get killed because he won't tell Lex his identity. Which one is worse? It's pretty obvious. Now, me personally, I don't think either is worse. Superman concealing his identity is very important, and I think he didn't really have strength and power to stop Lex Luthor from doing that. I think he was weakened at the time that the guy got shot. So there was really nothing he could do about that. Because he could have stopped the bullet if he was full strength. He wasn't full strength, right? So you can't really literally say, Superman, he had to watch the guy get killed, right? But the thing I will say about this, I don't think either one is bad. That's the thing. I don't think either one's bad. I think Jonathan telling young Clark Kent, no, don't bother to try and rescue me, was very, very good, because the consequences of that, would have been, the ramifications would have been tremendous. And then there are people who saying, well, people saw Jonathan, they saw Superman, they saw Clark, save the oil rig workers, saw him save but the oil rig went down with him. So they don't know if he's alive or dead, right? They never saw Clark, there's that phone. I heard the phone make a sound. I gotta go deliver a phone to somebody. They didn't see the oil rig workers. I'm sorry. They did. The truck driver didn't see Superman break up his truck. Right. Everybody always had suspicions about him. Even the kids, when they saw him do the thing in the bus, the parents deny that. Nobody had any like documentations or a picture of him doing the stuff, so they couldn't prove it. See, the idea is you gotta be able to prove it. Now, when you do blatantly do something in front of all these eyewitnesses watching and all the highway cameras and shit, now you asking for trouble, right? Because once they pick it up, the government's gonna come down your back. And the parents have been good at hiding him for so long. He been in this small little town, so there ain't got a whole bunch of people. News ain't gonna just travel like that. And so he was able to get away with it for a while, you know. And remember, right after Lois Lane found out who he was or what he wasn't human. She tried to get it published, but she was blocked by Perry White, right? So in the movie, all the options for him to be exposed and open to the public, it was kind of shut down, and that's why he explained it to Lois Lane. People forget the reason why he was saying he needed to preserve his identity, at least the Clark Kent, not knowing that he's this alien. It was because he wasn't ready. And his father believed the world wasn't ready for him. And even how he came out in public was because General Zod was exposing him. General Zod knew who he was, right? But remember, General Zod ended up being killed, and most of the Kryptonians were moved away. So his secret identity was kept, and that's why he even became a reporter. By being a reporter, he could preserve his secret identity. That was the whole point, separating Superman from Clark Kent, right? So Clark Kent seems like a human being, so you all think he's a human. Clark Kent, that is. Superman clearly is not a human being. Or if he is a human being, he got powers, he got magic or something. That's how people would view him. But clearly, after the invasion, everybody was clear, Superman's an alien. He ain't a human being, right? So all of that. I mean, Man of Steel was so thorough in giving us an origin story for Superman. It's probably the best origin story out there. Wonder Woman probably next in line. I'm thinking Spider-Man was also very good. That was more unrealistic, but still, it was good too. Batman Begins was all right. It was just fucking long and boring to me. But I haven't watched it in a while. Yeah. Oh, let me just bring your attention. Free Palestine. They assassinated a journalist, Anas al-Sharif. Oh my God, look at how horrible this looks. Um, the atrocities that Israel is compiling, it's bullshit, man. Jurassic World Rebirth, by the way, crossed 800 million at the box office. And even though I'm covering, Restore the Snyderverse right now, not Free Palestine, don't get it twisted. I'm following everything with Free Palestine. I'm all Free Palestine. It's just that as of now, I'm letting it sort of marinate, and I'm letting you guys do what you do, right? Because Free Palestine is very important to the freedom of the world. And they've already shadow banned me. Somebody came up on my thing and said, you're shadow banned. So I've been shadow banned for a minute. I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to say what I got to say about Palestine, about, Restore the Snyderverse. Nobody can shut me up. I'm going to keep on going, right? But Jurassic World's cost $800 million at the box office. I didn't think it was going to make it, but it did. So that's good for it. Kudos to it on that. We'll see how everything else goes. Yeah. But I could tell you Jurassic World's at the end of its run. I don't see it making a billion. That's not happening this year. Aaron Fisher says it's the fact that James Gunn's Superman is the least popular Superman ever. It sold way fewer tickets than Superman the movie, Superman Returns, and Man of Steel. Facts matter. Yep. It's true. It's true. And not just Man of Steel, BVS as well. The only one that didn't get to do ticket sales is Zack Snyder's Justice League. But I'm pretty sure it sold more tickets than The Flash. That much I know. And that had Superman in it as well. They killed this man. Free Palestine. Shout out to Abdullah Omar, my brother. Truth Teller says Belgian police have arrested 2 Israeli terrorists in connection with the allegations of war crimes related to the conflict in Gaza. Well, y'all should be arresting them everywhere they drop down. Don't fuck around. They've been ID'd by the Hein Foundation. Arrest these motherfuckers. Don't play around. Don't play around. They're saying this photo is from 2016, found in the article, has nothing to do with Israel or alleged war crimes. Don't fuck around. Arrest them. Ultra biased Snyder fan says Man of Steel made $670 million because of Nolan's name. Man, I have a brilliant idea. Nolan is much bigger now than he was in 2013. Let's bring back Nolan to produce Zack Snyder's Justice League 2. Billion plus, locked down. I'm sure he'll be game. Deal? I agree, but I'm saying, man, we don't need to do all of that. You just put Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters, and I'll perform that shit. Give you much more profit. Entertainment Biz says Fatal J had a bet with me that Superman would hit $1 billion. Now we all know it's not going anywhere near $1 billion, let alone Man of Steel numbers. Bro owes me $1,000, been ignoring me. Come on, Fatal J. Don't be a sore loser because the money's going to a good cause. That's real talk. Ron Diesel said, if you're expecting Superman to do 700 or 800 million plus, that's never going to happen. Ron Diesel. Will Superman make more than the worldwide box office when Man of Steel? Man of Steel made $670 million at the worldwide box office. This was this guy, Ron Diesel. 700 plus million. That's what he said. Now he's turning around and say something different. Ultra biased Snyder fan says profit from China box office versus profit from US box office and profit from Mexican box office and blah, blah, blah. Superman needed to outgross Man of Steel by a good amount because the franchise, like DC, are linked to a global market, and Man of Steel was seen by way more people. Just preach it, brother. Preach it. Why do our elites pretend to eat dead bodies? How is this normal among the very people running our country? There you go. There you go. Now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. Mohammed Samiri says video shows a sanitation worker being attacked by Israeli settlers just because he's Palestinian. Yep. WB is probably buying tickets to swing this domestic narrative for good optics. What a joke. There you go, Leonidas. You got it. You got it, brother. Yep, the run is ending. James Gunn is declaring it as broken even. Yet another lie. International is dragging it down. They opened too small. 217 million is too little. Man of Steel with inflation would have opened to the tune of 320 million worldwide. Yep, it was ultra biased Snyder fan who gave these numbers here, which is really cool. This is actually from a website though out there. But anyway, Man of Steel versus 2025 Superman, same point. Man of Steel didn't benefit from an extended run like some are trying to paint. It has a 40 million lead after fifth global weekend. I just showed you guys this. Right? So you see I get my sources from sources, okay? All right now. I think this is from a Reddit post, actually. Bro has never read a comic nor watched an animated show. Yes, Batman famously known for fighting aliens. 90% of man think they're Batman. We had Batman fighting aliens, but Matt Reeves happened, and now he's beating up goons on the street. And this is what they said to that. Laura Geek says, this isn't just pretentious Zack Snyder trying to force a religious parallel, by the way. This is him showing Clark Kent as a simple farm boy who wants to hold on to something because his whole life is about to change radically. If you just see a religious parallel, maybe rewatch. I agree. He's looking for counsel and advice. Called his mother, too. Was that religious? That was in BVS, though. Chilling Moot says, Warner Brothers releases 6 films with 40 plus million opening. First time in history, thanks to Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca. David Zaslav refused to give them the CEO job for DC Studios, and Superman is the only one among these 6 that hasn't made any profit. Yup, it's true. All these movies opened very well. Pam and Abdi are doing a good job with Warner Brothers Pictures, right? The biggest success so far has been the whatchamacallit, the $955 million movie. The fuck is it called, man? I forgot what his name is. With Jason Momoa and Jack Black is in it. You guys know what the name of the movie is. I spent almost an hour on here. I need to get out of here. Oh yeah, Israelis faking. They have an Israeli actor who's faking as if, trying to spread propaganda that Hamas had invaded a hospital, but she's really just an actress. Man of Steel's criticisms all sound like they're from someone who's never seen the film before. They conveniently ignore scenes like this and then lash onto the one frame he isn't smiling like a bumbling fool. I agree again, Nick. Shout out to Nick. Beku movies, these are legends. I agree. Bo DeMayo says, Kugler, they were afraid of. He has Nate Moore's protection. Then they pushed Nate out. Curious to see how it goes. I know Kugler balked at them trying to change all the characters' names in Black Panther because they were too African. He spoke about how execs got weirded out by Chadwick doing a Wakanda accent. Wow. Bo DeMayo, shout out to Bo. Bo, though he's supporting Superman, which is Bo, James Gunn's a liar. Don't support that guy. That guy's a snake, like Jeff Johns, like Joss Whedon. Okay, some creatives you don't back, but Bo DeMayo nonetheless, and he's a puppet as well. He does whatever they tell him. Bo DeMayo, you're not no puppet. You do what you're convicted of, like Zack Snyder. You know what I mean? So, and I know they're trying to put junk on Bo. Talk about how he was like some sort of rapist or some shit like that, but he's not that guy. They're just trying to throw dirt on him, and also because he's gay. But the other thing is, Bo DeMayo, Kugler, these guys really produce quality stuff, and that's what you want. You don't want comic book movies to be the same old shit all the time. This is Muhammad again, latching down on the nurse. Shout out to Comics and what is her name? Comics and something. Actually, I could just check. She's Comics and that's it. She's Comics and. She had a good interview with Bo DeMayo, and I gave her props for that. Let's break it down. Marvel and Disney, proven liars, come out with accusations of zero proof after I speak up about prejudice and toxicity in X-Men 97. Let's break down the video. It's actually free on this very site, and then I put it behind there to protect it in the immediate wake of controversy. He's talking about OnlyFans. Do you know how terrifying this entire ordeal is? To speak up and defend yourself as Marvel Studios and their thugs try to dance on your grave, even as they do try to ride your coattails, do your vision and talent. So you trust the studio, but not the artist speaking out? You, my friend, and your willful ignorance are absolutely part of the problem. This is Spectre 799 saying the same guy who supposedly locked his expose of Marvel behind his OnlyFans before actually releasing it to the public. Baltimore says, those are asking why I'm not so hard on Superman. The answer is I never worked with Gunn or DC. Like Matt Shankman and the writers of Fantastic Four, I sat in the creative meetings at Marvel Studios. They were horrible. You basically sit in a room with Kevin Feige and Lou De Esposito and try to pitch your movie, which also realizing that Kevin just wants you to dictate his rushed thoughts. He wants you to be a puppet. Victoria used to be in those, but Kevin and Lo had so mistreated her that in one of my Blade meetings, she just showed up with sugar cookies and she baked to help improve morale. You even told not to try to pitch ideas from the comics because Lou isn't the big comic guy and it'll turn him off. You sit and talk about craft and story characters only to have Kevin and Lou say, yeah, well, all we need to do is make sure it's fun, and etc., etc. There's no spark, there's no vision. Marvel is a slaughterhouse factory where you watch fresh meat get spoiled as it slowly makes its way through the assembly gears of mediocre thinking and this weird hatred for their own product. This is why Rob Liefeld isn't just some bitter old man talking about the comic book writers is met with the open contempt. I had to fight with the Leewalds involved on X-Men 97, and even then, the dismissive news with Dan Vasquez Eberhardt spoke about them, basically telling me the OG creators were meant to be seen, not heard, and to appease fans. I wanted to co-write an ep with them, and that was Dana's response. I even remember wanting to talk to Chris Claremont and being shut down, wanted Joe Madureira to do posters, just as I was scolded for being too friendly with the fans or coming off too much as one. This in a meeting where I was pitching that we could use Blade as a chance to pick up the dangling threads from Doctor Strange when it came to Wanda and the Darkhold. We could use Varney and the Darkhold cultists. One of my drafts opened with Deacon Frost tricking some British explorers to trek up to Mount Wundagore, where he does blood magic to reveal the vampire spell used by Varney and his followers during the days of cold. I started trying some of these threads together. I even had the same monsters from Doctor Strange show up to kill the explorers before Dean reveals he's a vampire and kills them. Up until that point, he'd been covered against the cold in the daylight. This was set before Doctor Strange 2, so a lot of the stuff played ironically, while also having Frost give us more details about Chithon, who we only glimpsed in Doctor Strange 2. To Kevin's credit, he liked the idea as well as my pitch that magic is to Blade what snakes are to Indiana Jones. He hates magic. But then Lou felt it was too comic book, while Mahershala bumped on there being magic in the film tonally. And then I watched as them and Nate Moore picked it apart, and we were off to a new drive. It's a broken machine. And so I can see where Matt and his team probably had great ideas only for Marvel's arrogance to destroy them. For some reason, these companies seem to be anti-fan. Like they hate fans. And it's so stupid. You know? Batfleck, after believing Superman's dead from the grave, goes on to face Doomsday alone, not knowing Wonder Woman was out there. That's when Superman got blown up by the nuke in space. He went on to try and take on Doomsday, but he was about to get cooked, though. However, watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, my kids asked me, Dad, when does part 2 come out? All right, man. That's about it for me. I'm going to stop right there. Trump blackmailed by Israel. Jewish intelligence officer confirms Netanyahu is blackmailing President Trump. And it was Israel that released the Wall Street Journal Epstein Trump birthday card. All right, people, I'm out of here. I'm gonna catch y'all guys later. I